Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And I have two guests today. Eddie, why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gleb. Hello, everybody. My name is Eduardo Fonnegra. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer at StormX. We are a company where we think investor relations, but we also come in as a tech company as well, really looking over to disrupt the space. In terms of everything else, I would like to have Michael to take over the stage in terms of further details.
Okay, Michael, please introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael Mohammadi, the co-founder and CEO here at StormX. I'm kind of bouncing off what Eduardo said. We're an all-in-one investor relations company that focuses solely on allowing founders to build out systems that prevent them from spending thousands of dollars on investor marketing agencies, brokers, and really, put the power back in founders' hands when they are dealing with investors.
That sounds like a really valuable opportunity for founders. What was the key insight that helped you decide to create the company?
So initially, we started out as an investor marketing agency, and we were working with startups to basically send out emails on their behalf and help them connect with investors in their industry. And we were charging retainer fees of anywhere between $1,500 to even sometimes $5,000 to $8,000 for to run these services. And we did find success, but over time we realized that even though we are helping these companies secure funding, we're also doing them a disservice by making the barrier to entry so high and, charging these retainer fees. And we wanted to figure out a way that, and on top of that, 90-day retainers, just to make sure that, we're able to handle our end and get things done. And so we really wanted to provide a solution that allowed startup founders to basically get the most of this process without having to rely on other companies. And another big thing is when these founders are reaching out to investors and they're hiring an agency or a broker, they're relying on the middleman to share their vision and to show their passion and really be the expert in that industry. And so the way we wanted to structure things was, how can we make it easy to start up a system like this? And how can we allow the founder to be on the front lines without having to worry about the technical side, the marketing side, and really just focus on building meaningful relations with these investors?
Interesting. So can you help me understand how you are focusing on collaborating with the founders? That's clearly something that you're really interested and passionate about doing. What does that collaboration look like?
So the main thing that we like to focus on is really enhancing their vision and making sure that, it's one thing to connect them to investors, but it's another thing to really allow them to make the most of what their vision, their beliefs, their ideas are. And so our goal in collaborating with each founder that works with us is really making sure that, the message that we're getting across is the message that they truly, or the most genuine message for what their values are and what their vision is for their startup. So pretty much every single.
Oh, sorry, Michael. But one thing I do want to add on top of that as well, we believe in so many founders' vision. And whether it's somebody that has an idea or somebody that's in the current process of developing an MVP, we want to think outside of the box on what is the appropriate way for that one individual to be connected with the right group of people, right? So in terms of everything that goes into the world of investor relations, it's always difficult for a startup founder to get the direct answer that they are looking for, right? In terms of raising capital. Sometimes there's a lot of involvement that goes into meeting the right strategic advisor or somebody that can really help boost up their marketing efforts, right? Just really understanding those key people, those key components that can really help them succeed with their entire process, right? Not everything has to go through fundraising, and in a certain extent, it's always about building up their network, really understanding that whole process as well.
And so do you when you're providing the platform, you provide technical backend. A number of founders who I talked to and coached really need a little bit more of hand-holding to learn how this process works. What do you do to help coach founders on this path?
So the foundation of StormX is built around education and teaching founders how to really build out these systems and leverage all of their existing positioning to make the most out of, reaching out to investors. And so I guess the way that we, hold their hands and make sure that everything works is when a company does come to us and they need help with their fundraising, the first thing we're doing is we're not just immediately setting them up with a system, starting to send out emails. The first thing that we do is really make sure that, we want to see that you have every single thing in order, because, not only are we looking for your success, but your success is our success. And we want to make sure that your positioning efforts are, top tier, and everything that you're doing and everything that we're going to be sending out is going to be just the best representation of you, and is also going to, as much as I hate the term or the phrase investor marketing, at the end of the day, you got to put your best foot forward when you are reaching out to these investors. And we just want to make sure that, at all times, that is happening. And in terms of the technical side, that's where StormX really thrives, is building out a system that basically eliminates the technical boundary, because we're setting everything up and we set up everything for them. And we make everything basically just a one-click process, to where once everything's set up, all they have to do is click a button and their campaigns are being sent out. They're starting to connect with these investors. And the most important thing that we want to focus on, as well as the education and the technology side, is really helping them find the right kinds of individuals to reach out to. And we don't use any sort of automated scraping tools or proprietary databases, because, when you want to yield results, you need to be extremely specific with the type of investors that you're reaching out to. And we don't want to be sending out messages to investors who are in different industries or who aren't even active. So at StormX, we really, really, really focus on just finding those contacts by handpicking them one by one for the clients.
That sounds very effortful, so that you focus on handpicking one by one for individual clients. And then do you guide clients not only in the initial contact, do you help them throughout the process of cultivating a relationship with the investor?
Yeah. So Eddie, if you want to speak on this part.
Yeah, absolutely. So it all comes down to, so the beauty, and the one thing I definitely wanted to add on top of what Michael mentioned as well. I mean, with StormX, we have the ability to keep it completely centralized, where it's access to both parties. One for Michael and I, our team member that's assigned to the account, and then the other end goes into our client, where they have full access to their account, or basically are managing the entire process from X, Y, and Z. And when it comes to the investor relations process, so like for an example, if we send out an email marketing campaign on their behalf and an investor responds, I want to come in and give I wouldn't say like the best out of the best, but I want to give them, very constructive advice on what to send back to the investor, and also what to communicate when you're on the call with the investor, because investors are always going to be asking different questions that a lot of startup founders may not know how to answer properly, or sometimes they would not really understand what the question is being approached to the startup founder. So we basically want to add in the traditional investor relations. That's actually like my main background a long time ago, and want to provide that as a service, everything all in one, right? Because again, it all comes down to, how do you communicate with them? How do you follow up with certain materials after your initial conversation with the investor? And how do you just keep on building up the traction going forward? And that's how we look for it with all of our clients. So when it's email marketing, someone responds, great, positive sign, but we also want to take this approach into a traditional relationship status, right? For all of the people that are getting connected with different types of investors.
Interesting. What are so you mentioned about the founder following up correctly. What are the typical mistakes you see founders make when they are trying to engage with investors?
So I would say the biggest mistake, in my opinion, that we see is, when they're making these kind of cold introductions to investors, most founders think that, okay, the only way that they're going to respond, or the best way I'm going to make this introduction, is if I provide them with my best pitch on the first introduction, as if it's kind of like a Shark Tank style, where you're emailing them and you're trying to get as much information into this email or into this phone call as possible, as if, the investor is going to say, oh man, like I'm going to grab my checkbook and write you this check immediately. So overall, the most important thing, kind of like what Eddie mentioned, is really building an actual relationship with these people. And most founders focus on pitching, but the pitching is what's going to make you kind of fall into the trap of all the millions of other startups that are trying to get these investments and connect with investors. So I would say that the biggest mistake that we see founders make is they're worrying too much about the kind of marketing side and less on the investor relations side and building those relationships. And so that's where StormX comes in, is really we're trying to make it so these founders don't have to worry about the marketing side, and they can focus solely on actually building relationships, because whether that investor that you're connecting with is going to invest in you or not, building that meaningful relationship is going to yield warm introductions from that other investor, or just build out, a network of individuals who are aware of your company, who are aware of your fundraising efforts, and who can help out in the future.
Interesting. What kind of changes have you seen with investors in the last couple of years as the economic situation has grown more difficult with interest rates? And how have you helped startup founders manage these challenges?
I could take lead on this answer, because this is actually something I'll do my due diligence on for the last 3-4 years, and because markets it's consistently changing, right?
Yeah.
And especially with times right now, right, where there's a recession that's going on, there's also the war that's happening over in Ukraine, right? All these other mix-ups that's happening, right, in the financial world. It leaves a lot of startup founders with skepticism, whether it's worth it for them to move forward with any type of funding approach. And here's the biggest answer to it all. One, regardless what stages that we're in, whether we're in the good or in the bad, everyone is always looking to invest in the next innovating project, whether it's something that's AI, right? AI is a very booming industry, but there's also, biotech that's coming up on the rise this past year, right? So biotech is also really big and so goes with pharmaceutical. So there's a lot of niches that are on the rise right now, and a lot of different venture funds where they're now providing an impact fund that are dedicated to these projects, right? I'll give you another example with blockchain technology. That was a very big booming industry back in 2020, 2021, and then after with with FTX and all the other companies going down the hole. Now a lot of investors had their skepticism whether this is actually worth it for them to invest in or not. But there are a lot of different VC firms, top ones, that are creating an impact fund anywhere between 50 to 100 million, whether it's for companies in NFTs, in the world of metaverse, all the other all the other sectors in all of blockchain technology. So money is still being generated, money is still being invested into these companies, into these niches, no matter which part you are in. So that's the one thing that I always would believe in and would always give that reassurance to any startup founder, right? When they say, yeah, but we're not sure if the market is right. Well, the market, it's all over the place, but everybody is always looking for the next revolutionary, innovating project, right? And everybody has an idea, and we believe in that approach. So that's my answer. And I'm not sure if Michael, you want to add anything on top of that as well.
I'm going to kind of add something on the flip side of what Eddie said, because what he said is 100% true. I think it also encourages founders to really think a lot more about their overall business structure and what they're really working on, because at the end of the day, if the market sucks, the market sucks. But overall, and you see this a lot in blockchain industry right now with the lack of trust and the lack of, I guess trust that is going to grow. And obviously, depending on the industry, I think founders should really look back at their company and really think of their business model and think of what value they're going to put forward that is going to show that, whether the market is bad or good, that they're a good investment. So we do work with founders all the time who do have like incredible ideas. And, pretty much every founder we have is a very driven, a great entrepreneur, but at the same time, we need to make sure that they're really looking back at their own company to make sure that regardless of the market, are they a good investment? And so, it kind of goes both ways.
Okay, that's really helpful. Now, as we finish up, what do you think will transform in the investor marketplace in the next several years? What will change? There clearly, people will still be looking for good investments, but what kind of changes do you anticipate in the next couple of years in the investor relations space?
So I think the main change will be, obviously we see so many startups popping up, and every single year there are more and more and more startups. So I think the kind of investor relations dynamic is going to switch to a more kind of personal approach to where people are relying on the communities that they build to be those active investors. And I think crowdfunding is still kind of in its growth phase and hasn't really hit where it's going to be in the future. I think blockchain and a bunch of other, different types of technology that are coming out are really going to revolutionize the whole crowdfunding space and allow, more people to own into these companies. And I think what that's going to do for not only investors and companies is you're going to start seeing companies that are focusing more so on what the people want, because the people are investing rather than what the investors want. So I do think, VCs, angel investors, and these family offices are still going to be a huge part in this. But I think companies are starting to switch over to a more kind of community-based style of growth and investment. But and I do think that VCs and angel investors are also going to be playing a huge part as well, because it is I think lower cost to entry to starting a successful startup as well.
And then one thing I add on top of that as well, in terms with my thought process and where this direction is going to lead into, number one, for people that are looking to bring on or observe or find a third-party provider that can help them get to the process where they're leading into, I think we're going to see much more of a heavier approach where there will be something in place where it's all helpful information for the startup founder to get access to, whether it's breaking out the middleman, right? I don't want to say StormX is really revolutionizing the space, right? I mean, I'm trying to not include that, but in general, right? We just want to see where it breaks out the middleman and there's a person that knows exactly how they can get them to X, Y, and Z with a product or any type of SaaS platform in place, and really helping them get to that process, whether it's going through the full cycle of email marketing, community building, networking, really just thinking outside of the box to really helping that person get where they need to be. Because not everything has to be, reaching out to the investor and see if they say yes or no, right? It's always going down to the strategic way where, okay, we want to see if there could be some type of accelerators that can be a part of, or there could be some type of angel investor that's also a advisor, right? That can help you get to that process where you need to be in, right? Where you have these tools and access on a lot of these other things where it's not confusing and you have somebody on your side that can help you get to the XYZ process, as I mentioned. So that's basically it in a nutshell. We're all in the investor relations future.
We do have, we have a lot of people who come to us and say, okay, why can't you just because with the system that we provide at StormX, we're introducing these founders to hundreds of investors, whether they respond or not, but each investor is hand chosen, vetted, and verified by us and our internal team to make sure that they are, you know, one, it's going to actually deliver, and two, they're qualified fit and they're actively investing. But we do get a lot of people who say, okay, why can't you just make, you know, 1 to 10 introductions to us and let it be, you know, just immediately get us on calls with investors. But the main thing that people need to consider as well is what Eddie said is, you know, our goal is to give you options. You know, we want to be able to give you options to where you can actually explore the different types of investors who are going to be not only willing to invest in your company, but also aid in your growth and who have that experience. And so if your main focus is really just meeting the first couple investors who can give you money, then you're going to get caught in that trap of having these people who have ownership in your company, but ultimately can't aid in your success. You know, they can obviously give money, but, you know, a company that has investors that are going to be team players and are really going to aid in the growth, that's what StormX provides. And that's why we build out these systems, because we want to put the power in the founder's hands. You know, we don't want to just connect them to the first investors who are going to give them money. We want to be able to provide them with the opportunity to get their vision out there and the opportunity to pick and choose of the investors that they're building relationships with. So the investor relations industry right now is focused solely on, okay, who's going to give me money? Who's going to give me money? And at StormX, what we really want to build is something, and what we're currently building and what we've done so far is allowing these founders to really focus on sharing their vision, being genuine, and finding genuine matches based on the people that we connect them with, instead of having to kind of just choose the first person to give them money.
Okay, well, that's a good message to end with. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Gleb.
Awesome. Thank you, Gleb. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show and helps us improve the show. All right, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. In the meantime, the wisest and most profitable decisions to you, my friends.